In a world painted with the vibrant hues of everyday life, nestled within the branches of a grand, old oak tree, lived two tiny, fluffy fledglings named Puku and Puki. They were siblings, barely out of their shells, their days filled with the warmth of their mother's wing and the promise of the boundless sky. Mama Bird, with ancient wisdom shining in her eyes, often spoke of the world beyond their cozy nest. The sky is vast, she'd chirp, full of challenges and wonders. You must learn to fly, my darlings, not just with your wings, but with your hearts. Puku, with his bright, eager eyes and an impatient flutter in his tiny chest, was always the first to peek over the edge. He was a creature of impulse, driven by an unyielding curiosity and a fierce belief in his own strength. When Mama Bird began teaching them to flap their undeveloped wings, Puku would launch himself with enthusiasm, often tumbling clumsily back into the nest. Each fall would sting, a tiny bruising of pride and feathers. But Puku never stayed down for long. He'd shake himself off, listen to Mama's encouraging chirps, and try again, convinced that sheer will and repeated effort would eventually get him airborne. His learning was a series of thrilling leaps and messy landings, each bump teaching him a little more about balance, wind currents, and the resilience of his own spirit. Puki, on the other hand, was a thoughtful and observant soul. Her eyes held a deeper, more cautious spark. While Puku would impulsively dive, Puki would sit at the edge, studying the leaves as they danced in the breeze, watching other birds soar gracefully, and meticulously analyzing Mama Bird's every movement. Fear was a real, tangible thing for Puki, a tiny tremor in her heart that whispered doubts. She worried about falling, about the unknown, about not being good enough. When it came time for the first real flight, Puku was already several short, wobbly flights into his journey, proudly snatching practice berries from lower branches. Puki, however, still hesitated. She watched Puki use clumsy triumphs and minor mishaps. She saw the grit in his eyes when he picked himself up, and she learned from his mistakes without having to make them herself. She spent hours quietly practicing within the nest, imagining the wind beneath her wings, visualizing the perfect takeoff. Finally, with a deep breath and a silent prayer, Puki took her leap. It wasn't as sudden or dramatic as Puki's first plunge. Hers was a more controlled descent, a careful unfurling of wings that, while still weak, carried the wisdom of countless observations. She still wobbled, still struggled, but her flight, when it came, had an elegance born of preparation and a gentle strength forged in overcoming her own fears. As days turned into weeks, Puku and Puki grew stronger, their feathers gleaming, their songs clear and true. Puku became a daring explorer, always venturing further, discovering new berry patches and challenging winds. He learned to trust his instincts, to adapt quickly to unexpected gusts, and to embrace the thrill of the unknown. His experiences taught him that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to fly in spite of it. Puki, meanwhile, became an astute navigator. She remembered the safest routes, the patterns of the weather, and the best places to shelter from storms. Her caution had developed into wisdom, her observation skills into an unparalleled understanding of her environment. She learned that preparedness could turn potential disaster into a manageable challenge, and that sometimes, the slowest path was the most sustainable. They often met on the highest branches, sharing stories of their day. Puku would describe a heart-stopping dive he'd made, and Puki would share a clever shortcut she'd discovered, or a subtle change in the air that predicted rain. They saw in each other the mirror of their own journey, two different paths to the same destination, a life lived fully. The lesson, life, Puku and Puki learned, was the ultimate teacher. It didn't care if you were impulsive like Puku, learning through countless falls and brave leaps, or cautious and observant like Puki, learning through careful study and deliberate action. Puku's teaching, you will fall, you will stumble, you will make mistakes, but every single one of those experiences, every scraped knee and bruised feather, is a lesson. Get back up, try again. Your courage and resilience are your strongest wings. Don't let fear paralyze you. Let it be the wind that reminds you to fly. Puki's teaching, take your time, observe, learn from others, and from the quiet whispers of the world around you. Preparation isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Don't be afraid to analyze, to plan, to understand before you act. Sometimes, the most powerful leaps are those taken with careful thought. Together, Puku and PUKI taught each other. And through their story, they teach us, there isn't one, right, way to navigate life's vast skies. Embrace your own unique learning style, your own fears and strengths. Trust the process, for every triumph and every stumble holds a profound lesson, weaving together the rich, complex tapestry of who you are meant to become. The journey itself, in all its beautiful imperfections, is the greatest classroom of all.